Hello and welcome along to episode 1 of Kianski Car Stories. Today we'll be working on my 2009 base Cayman. Picked this up in January 2019 with 72,000 miles. Alright, so in today's episode, nothing terribly exciting. We'll do an oil and filter change, a brake fluid flush, and then clear out the area in front of the condensers. There's some bugs in there that aren't supposed to be there. I don't want them there, so we're going to take them out and just clean things up a little bit. Before I start that, I'm going to take the car out for a spin, get the oil up to temp, put it up on my new quick jacks, and we'll go from there. And we are back. The quick jacks are set up to lift the car. Well, there goes the fan. One nice thing about the lowered car is there's not a whole lot of gap between the lifting points and the top of the lifting blocks, which are only, I'm using the 3-inch tall ones. So it's pretty easy to make sure that they connect. Going to double check all the points, make sure things look good. Quiet down, fan. Why, thank you. So yeah, there you see the lifting blocks right underneath the lifting point. All looks good. I still like to be a little bit more cautious, and we'll put a couple of jack stands underneath the back section since I'll be underneath the car draining the oil. All right, taking the cap off to let it breathe. Let's get some light under there. Takes care of that. I just walked around the entire car. Adds a bit of softness, which is always nice. Plenty of room. Engine's nice and hot. All right, let's drain that oil. Got the 8mm in there. Crack it loose. And bring this up to prevent splashing. Looks pretty clear and hot. I usually let it drain for a solid half hour at least until it starts dripping. So we'll let that do its thing. And then we'll tackle the oil filter. For the oil filter itself, we're going to need a ratchet with a long extension. That should do it right there. And then everyone's favorite, the good old Hazet 2169, 74.4mm. It's really that 0.4mm that creates that solid grasp of the oil filter housing. Well, we are back, and it's been a little bit over an hour. As you can see, it has really slowed down, but I gotta be honest, these little oil ripples, it's kind of fun to watch. It's kind of soothing. And you also have that bubble formation in the middle, kind of looks like a mustache. Easy does it. Can't rush this part. Got your oil filter, your O-ring, and then your crush washer.
Swaparooski. All right, let's put this bad boy in. Stop the bleeding. Make this snug, and then we'll torque it to 50 Newton meters or 37 foot-pounds. All right, got my new CDI Torque Wrench set up for 50 Newton meters. Pretty excited to use this first time. It's a lot nicer than the Craftsman ones I had. So, wait for the click. Boom. Of course, that always happens. I actually felt the washer crush right before I heard the click. So, good feeling there. And now we can take out the oil filter. As you can see, got the oil filter and the housing out. It's a little bit messy, but that's what happens. So we'll go ahead and leave that as is. We'll need to get this O-ring off and then put the new one on with fresh oil and the new filter. Okay. Okay, lubricate the O-ring with fresh oil. And around the filter housing it goes in its special slot. Clean it up again. There's a lot of cleaning going on. That's just me. And then the new oil filter, symmetric. Pops in. And ready for insertion. Now usually what I do also is kind of fill this up about halfway with fresh oil, just so that it's got a little bit of oil inside to help kind of prime the system. And a little bit. And then we torque this down to 25 Newton meters. All right, now that we have the oil filter installed and the housing tightened down to 25 Newton meters, we're going to add fresh oil. Capacity is 7.5 liters, or just under 8 quarts. So I'm going to go ahead and add 7 liters, see how that is, and then I'll top off as necessary. Skosh more. You gotta make sure you put it on so that the logo looks right. Everything's gotta be aligned for no sane reason. Well, that's the oil change. Now for the brake fluid flush. So this is where having the quick jack comes in handy. Being able to lift the car up uniformly like this, you can take all the wheels off, flush the fluid, and then put all the wheels back on. Don't have to do it one by one. What I am going to do though is lower it down to the first stop, just so that it's a little bit easier. Don't really need to go underneath the car, so we'll go ahead and do that. First I'll need to raise it to get it off the second stop. Adjust the cam. Gotta take the jacks out of the way first. Or the jack stands, I mean. Let's try that again. Not sure when this was ever replaced. Color looks fine, but nice to get a reset on everything. So like pretty much all reservoirs, there's a filter in there and they're kind of tricky to get out. Let's see if I can pull this out. Oh, well, that was easy. Screwdriver, not pliers. All right, got my little turkey baster with a fancy one-way valve and just another container. You know, it actually does not look that great. Now that I'm looking more closely, it's like a dark green. It's like a duct call or something. Oh, more squeeze. So that's how much Arrowhead Mountain Spring water we pulled out. All right, so it's not focusing exactly on the reservoir, but I think you can see where the minimum line is, and the fluid is pretty much just at that level. Okay, now that we have taken that out, we're going to replenish the reservoir with new brake fluid. I just have the genuine Porsche one. It's probably the same as, I don't know, one of the ATE ones, but it's a .4. There's the part number for it. Oh boy. Well, that was sketch. And now we're gonna fill up our Mityvac power bleeder. And then just in case something happens, I like to pretty much cover the whole thing up. Let's go ahead and just pump it up, make sure that we can hold pressure. Pardon the gas. This cart is very handy. I'll pour it from this side for your viewing pleasure. And then these are bottles for bleeding, so each one is half a liter. Time to pressurize the system. And there goes the fluid. (15 psi). Let's go over to the right rear and start flushing. And here we are. Got our 11mm box end wrench, screwdriver to help get off the caps, bleed bottle, can of brake clean, and some compressed air and the leftover fluid in the top of the cap. After you close it down, you could blow all that stuff out so it doesn't accidentally spill later on and then ruin your caliper paint, which, as you can see, well, doesn't exist really for this, but it's a good practice. So let's go ahead and start off with the outside first, then moving on to the inside. Okay. And there she goes. The rest of the calipers bled easily, no fuss, no issues. Hey, so remember how we were supposed to clear out the debris in this episode? Well, as you can see, I got it done. It just took me a few weeks to get around to it. Also had some scope creep, removed the rear bumper to do some more work. So all that thrilling footage will be shifted over to episode 2. That's it for now. Thanks a lot for watching.